Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. So today we're tackling something pretty relatable, I think. It's those pesky negative thought patterns.
Uh-oh.
You know, that inner critic that's always there whispering, like, you're not good enough, or like, what if it all goes wrong?
That kind of thing.
Our guide for this deep dive is this book called Negative Thought Patterns by Arnab Saha, and it's full of insights. I'm really intrigued by this whole idea that, like, our brains are wired for survival, not happiness. It's like we're constantly on the lookout for danger, even if the biggest threat these days is, like, you know, missing our favorite show.
Yeah, it is kind of fascinating. Isn't it? Like, our brains haven't quite caught up to the fact that we're not, like, dodging saber-toothed tigers anymore.
Exactly.
So that ancient wiring that was once crucial for survival now can just lead us down this like rabbit hole of anxieties about things that might never even happen.
Totally. And that explains why my mind seems to gravitate towards like the bad news. But okay, so if our brains are so hardwired for this negativity, is there any hope for us? Can we like break free from this? I mean, like, can we rewire our brains for positivity?
Well, the book actually dives into this. And it's where this concept of neuroplasticity comes in. So it's this amazing ability of our brains to just change and adapt.
Oh, wow.
You know, think about it. We can learn new languages, pick up new skills. Our brains are constantly evolving. So yes, we can absolutely retrain our brains to think more positively.
That's really encouraging. But where do we even begin? Like, does the book give us any sort of roadmap for this mental makeover?
It absolutely does. The book really emphasizes that the first step is recognizing these common negative thought patterns. You know, we need to become aware of these mental traps before we can even start to kind of dismantle them.
Let's talk about those traps.
Sure.
What are some of the patterns that we should be watching out for?
Well, one of the most common ones is catastrophizing. So that's when we blow things way out of proportion. And the book gives us a great example. If I make a mistake at work, it will ruin my entire career.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's that tendency to jump to the worst case scenario.
I know that one all too well. One time I spilled coffee on a client's presentation.
Oh, no.
And I was convinced I would be fired on the spot.
Oh, my gosh.
It wasn't nearly as dramatic as my mind made it out to be.
Of course. That's the thing. Our thoughts, they're not always accurate reflections of reality. Another common pattern is emotional reasoning. Which is when we just let our feelings dictate our perception of the world. So it's like saying, like, I feel anxious, so this situation must be dangerous, even if there's no, like, logical evidence to support that fear.
Got it. So instead of looking at the facts, we're just letting our emotions kind of cloud our judgment.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds like a recipe for unnecessary stress.
It definitely can be. That's why it's crucial to develop this ability to observe our thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them. The book actually delves into a technique called cognitive restructuring. Which is all about challenging these negative thought patterns and consciously choosing more realistic and empowering beliefs.
Cognitive restructuring. That sounds pretty intense.
It can be.
Can you break that down for us? Like, how does it actually work?
So let's say you catch yourself thinking, I always mess up. So the first step is to actually challenge that thought. Like, is it really true that you always mess up? Chances are you've had plenty of successes too. The next step is to reframe the thought. So instead of, I always mess up, you might say, I've made mistakes in the past, but I'm learning and growing from them. So it's shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
I love that. It's about taking those self-defeating thoughts and reframing them to something more constructive and empowering.
Exactly.
So we've talked about identifying those negative thoughts and reframing them. What are some other techniques the book recommends? Because I'm ready to, like, break free from this negativity.
One of the most impactful tools the book emphasizes is the practice of mindfulness. So it's about learning to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Almost as if you were watching clouds drift by in the sky. It's about creating a sense of space between you and your thoughts. So you're not automatically reacting to every negative thought that pops up.
Mindfulness, it's such a buzzword these days. I have to admit, the idea of just like sitting quietly And observing my thoughts feels a bit intimidating. Like my mind would be a whirlwind of chaos.
I understand. The key with mindfulness isn't to stop thinking altogether.
Okay.
That's impossible. It's more about learning to detach from those thoughts and not get carried away by them.
Got it.
The book actually even includes a simple mindfulness exercise that you can try.
Okay, tell me more about this exercise. I'm willing to give it a shot.
All right. It's incredibly simple, yet powerful. All you do is sit in a comfortable position. Close your eyes. Focus on your breath.
Okay.
And as you breathe in and out, simply notice the sensations of your breath. Inevitably, your mind will wander. That's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
When it does, just gently guide your attention back to your breath without judgment.
So it's like mental weightlifting, strengthening that muscle of awareness.
Exactly. It's a practice, just like anything else. The more you do it, the easier it becomes to detach from those negative thoughts.
Right.
And create a sense of inner peace. And that inner peace, in turn, can have a profound impact on our mental and physical well-being.
Well, that leads perfectly into the next part of our deep dive. Because in part 2, we're going to explore that fascinating connection between our thoughts and our physical health. We'll uncover how negative thought patterns can actually contribute to stress, anxiety, and even physical ailments. And we'll dive into the research that shows how positive thinking can boost our immune system and overall well-being.
Awesome.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll uncover even more insights from negative thought patterns.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We just scratched the surface of how this negativity impacts our minds.
Right.
But now I'm kind of curious, like, does all this negative thinking, does it actually affect our bodies too?
Yeah.
It sounds a bit dramatic, but could my, pessimistic thoughts actually be making me physically unwell?
It might sound surprising, but the link between our mental and physical health is very real.
Okay.
The book highlights this connection. And it's not just about, feeling a bit down.
Yeah.
Chronic negativity. It actually contributes to, serious issues like anxiety, depression, and even stress-related physical symptoms.
Okay.
Like headaches and fatigue.
I have definitely experienced that. Stressful periods, they often come with a wave of tension headaches. But the book, it suggests a connection to even more serious health concerns.
Yeah, it does. And this part is a bit of a wake-up call.
Okay.
The book mentions studies that link chronic negativity to an increased risk of heart disease.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a stark reminder that what's going on in our minds, it really does have a direct impact on our physical well-being. It's all interconnected.
Okay. I'm starting to see how powerful our thoughts really are. It's almost like we need to start treating negative thinking like a virus.
Right.
But if these thoughts can make us sick, does that mean, flipping the script and thinking positively?
Yeah.
Can it actually have the opposite effect?
That's precisely what the research suggests.
Okay.
It's not just wishful thinking. There's actually scientific evidence backing this up. The book highlights studies showing that positive thinking can do amazing things, like improve your mood, boost the immune system, and even contribute to a longer lifespan.
So it's not just about feeling happier. It's about genuinely improving our health.
Exactly.
I'm definitely motivated to ditch the doom and gloom and embrace a more positive outlook.
Yeah.
But how you make that happen? Does the book offer any, step-by-step guide?
It absolutely does.
Okay.
And it builds on what we discussed earlier about identifying and reframing those negative thoughts.
Right.
The book delves deeper into a process called cognitive restructuring. It's about consciously challenging the validity of our negative thoughts.
Okay.
And choosing to replace them with more realistic and empowering ones.
I remember us touching on cognitive restructuring in part 1.
Yeah.
But could you walk us through an example? How would we actually apply this in a real-life situation?
Sure. So imagine you're feeling overwhelmed by a new project at work. Maybe you're thinking, I'm going to fail. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common reaction when faced with a challenge.
I've been there.
Right.
It's so easy to jump to those self-defeating conclusions.
It is. So the first step is to simply acknowledge the thought.
Okay.
Don't beat yourself up for having it. Just notice it's there. Then start questioning its validity. Ask yourself, is there evidence that I'm going to fail? Have I ever succeeded at similar tasks before?
It's like we're playing detective with our own thoughts.
Exactly.
Examining the evidence instead of just accepting the negative narrative.
Exactly. And once you've examined the evidence, the next step is to reframe the thought.
Okay.
So instead of, I'm going to fail, you might say, this is going to be tough, but I'm going to learn and grow from this experience.
Okay.
Right.
It's a subtle shift in language, but I can already feel how it changes the entire feeling of the situation.
That's the power of cognitive restructuring.
Wow.
You're taking control of your thoughts instead of letting them control you.
Right.
But I know what you're thinking.
What?
Sometimes those negative thoughts, they just pop up out of nowhere.
Oh, yes.
Like an uninvited guest taking over our mental living room.
That's exactly what it feels like. It's so frustrating when they seem to, like, hijack our minds without warning. What do we do about those sneaky, automatic thoughts?
Here's where mindfulness comes into play again.
Okay.
Remember, it's about observing those thoughts without judgment. Like watching leaves floating down a stream.
Okay.
You don't have to engage with every thought that passes by.
So instead of getting tangled up in the negativity, we're learning to simply observe it. I'm starting to see how mindfulness could be such a powerful tool for those moments when our minds feel like a runaway train.
Exactly. It's not about suppressing thoughts.
Okay.
It's about creating space between us and those thoughts.
Got it.
Like the book says, imagine your thoughts are like a radio playing in the background.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to listen to every song. You can simply acknowledge that the music is there and choose to focus your attention elsewhere.
Okay, that analogy makes a lot of sense. It kind of takes the pressure off of trying to, like, completely silence the mind, which honestly feels impossible sometimes. But I have to admit, even with these tools changing our thinking patterns, it seems like a long game. Are there things that we can do, like, on a daily basis to make positivity more of a habit? I'm all about, like, simple but effective practices.
You're in luck because the book highlights several habits that can make a big difference.
Okay.
One of my personal favorites is the practice of gratitude.
Gratitude. It sounds a bit too good to be true. Can simply thinking about things we're grateful for really shift our entire mindset?
It might sound simple, but the research on gratitude is incredibly compelling.
Wow.
When we focus on what we have, it shifts our attention away from what we lack. And it helps us appreciate the good things in our lives, no matter how big or small.
Oh, yeah.
It's like training our brains to see the world through a more optimistic lens.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. But how do we actually incorporate gratitude into our daily lives? Is it just a matter of thinking positive thoughts? Or is there a more, like, structured approach?
The book suggests a great practice. Start a gratitude journal.
Okay.
Each day, simply write down 3 things you're grateful for.
Okay.
They can be as simple as a sunny morning or a good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Or more significant, like a supportive friend or a recent accomplishment.
So instead of dwelling on my to-do list or getting caught up in the news cycle, I'm taking a few minutes to appreciate the little things that bring me joy. It sounds like a nice way to start or end the day.
Exactly. It's about consciously shifting your focus to the positive. And speaking of positive practices, the book also highlights the power of affirmations.
Affirmations. I have to admit, I used to think those were a bit cheesy. Does simply repeating positive phrases to ourselves really make a difference? It almost feels too easy.
I get it. It can feel a bit strange at first.
Yeah.
But affirmations are more than just, like, feel-good phrases. They're about reprogramming our subconscious minds.
Oh, wow.
When we repeat statements like, I am capable, I am worthy, or I am strong, we're planting seeds of positivity that can gradually change our self-perception.
So it's like replacing the negative self-talk with a more encouraging inner dialogue.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But are there specific affirmations that the book recommends? Or is it more about choosing phrases that resonate with us personally?
The book offers a great variety, but it also encourages you to choose affirmations that feel authentic to you.
Okay.
The key is to repeat them regularly, especially when those negative thoughts start creeping in.
That's a great tip. I'm definitely going to experiment with affirmations, but I have a confession. I'm a bit of a night owl. I often stay up late scrolling through social media, which probably doesn't help with the whole positive thinking thing.
Right.
Does the book address, like, the impact our sleep habits have on our mental well-being?
It does. And this is a crucial point because the book emphasizes the importance of getting enough sleep. It's fundamental for both our physical and mental health.
Right.
And a lack of sleep makes us more susceptible to those negative thought patterns.
I know I'm definitely more irritable and anxious when I'm sleep deprived.
Yeah.
But how exactly does sleep impact our thinking?
When we don't get enough sleep, our brains simply don't function at their best.
Okay.
Our cognitive abilities are impaired. We're more likely to feel stressed and overwhelmed. And those negative thoughts, they have more room to take root.
That makes sense. So maybe putting down the phone and getting some solid shut-eye is a good place to start. What about exercise? Does the book touch on the link between physical activity and our, mental state?
It absolutely does. The book highlights that exercise has benefits that go far beyond physical fitness.
Okay.
It releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects.
Right.
It helps reduce stress, improves sleep quality, and increases energy levels.
So like a win-win, we get fitter and happier. I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together to create a more positive and resilient lifestyle.
It's about taking a holistic approach.
No.
And that leads us to another important point. The book emphasizes the role of our environment in shaping our thoughts.
Oh, okay.
It's about creating a supportive and uplifting environment for ourselves.
So it's not just about our internal world, but also about the external factors that influence our mindset.
Precisely.
Okay.
This means surrounding ourselves with positive people, engaging in activities that bring us joy, and being mindful of the content we consume.
Yeah.
Less doom scrolling on social media,
Right.
and more time spent in nature with loved ones or pursuing passions that light us up.
That sounds like a recipe for a fulfilling life. This has been such a fascinating exploration so far. I'm already feeling inspired to make some changes.
That's great to hear. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Small steps, consistency, and self-compassion are key. But before we dive into the final part, I'd love to hear from you, our listeners. What are some of your favorite strategies for boosting your mood and cultivating a positive mindset?
Yeah.
Share your thoughts in the comments.
Definitely.
We'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive into negative thought patterns, with even more practical tips and inspiring stories.
Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm feeling pretty energized after exploring how negativity impacts our minds and bodies.
Yeah.
We've uncovered some fantastic tools for reframing those thoughts.
Right.
And creating a more positive outlook. But I'm all about putting knowledge into action. So what are some practical steps we can take to actually make those changes stick?
That's a great question, because lasting change really does come down to building healthy habits.
Okay.
It's not just about knowing the techniques, it's about weaving them into our daily routines.
So it's about creating a lifestyle that supports positive thinking rather than just trying to apply a quick fix when we're feeling down.
Exactly. And the book provides a really helpful framework for doing just that.
Okay.
Remember those 3 key practices we touched on earlier?
Yeah.
Morning reflection, midday check-in, and evening gratitude.
Yes. Those really stuck with me.
Yeah.
I can see how they'd create a sense of structure and intention around our mental well-being.
It is.
Could you remind us how they work and why they're so effective?
Of course. So morning reflection is all about setting a positive tone for the day.
Okay.
Instead of hitting that snooze button and immediately getting swept up in the day's demands,
Right.
we take a few moments to connect with ourselves.
Okay.
It could be as simple as watching the sunrise, reading an inspiring quote, or even just writing down a goal for the day. It's about choosing how we want to approach the day,
Right.
rather than letting it control us.
I love that. It's like setting an intention for the day.
Yeah.
Similar to how we might set an intention for a yoga practice or a meditation session.
Exactly.
It's bringing mindfulness to the forefront right from the start.
Right. Then the midday check-in, that's like a mental pit stop.
Okay.
So we pause, take a few deep breaths, and assess how we're feeling.
Okay.
Are we holding on to any tension? Have we gotten caught up in negative thought patterns? It's an opportunity to reset and recalibrate.
Yeah.
Using tools like cognitive restructuring or affirmations to shift our perspective if needed.
It's like hitting that refresh button on our mental state.
Exactly.
I can see how that would be especially helpful during busy or stressful days when it's so easy to lose sight of our well-being.
Exactly. And then evening gratitude is all about ending the day on a positive note.
Okay.
It's about reflecting on the good things that happen, no matter how small. Did we have a meaningful conversation? Did we enjoy a delicious meal? Did we simply experience a moment of peace and quiet?
Yeah.
By focusing on what we're grateful for, we train our minds to look for the good, even on challenging days.
I love how these practices create a sense of bookends to the day. Starting and ending on a mindful and positive note.
Right.
It feels like a really sustainable way to cultivate positivity in the long term.
It is. It's about consistency and integration.
Yeah.
But of course, it's also about drawing inspiration from others who have walked this path.
Yeah.
And the book shares some really inspiring stories of people who have successfully transformed their thinking.
Those stories always resonate so deeply.
Yeah.
They make these techniques feel more tangible and achievable. Is there a particular story that stood out to you?
There is one about a woman named Maria who struggled with social anxiety.
Okay.
She was terrified of public speaking and avoided social situations whenever possible.
Oh gosh. Social anxiety is so common, and it can be so incredibly debilitating. It's amazing that the book offers real-life examples of people overcoming these challenges. How did Maria approach her anxiety?
So she started by recognizing her negative thought patterns.
Okay.
That constant inner critic telling her, you're going to make a fool of yourself, everyone's going to judge you.
Ugh, those thoughts are so familiar. I think most of us have experienced that fear of judgment at some point in our lives. What techniques did she use to break free?
So she began practicing mindfulness meditation.
Okay.
Which helped her become more aware of those thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
She also used cognitive restructuring to challenge and reframe those negative predictions.
Okay.
Instead of assuming the worst, she started asking herself, what's the evidence that this will happen?
Mm-hmm.
Is there another way to look at this situation?
So she was consciously choosing to challenge those automatic negative thoughts and replace them with more realistic and empowering ones. It's amazing how a shift in perspective can make such a difference.
It really can. And for Maria, the results were incredible. She gradually started feeling more comfortable in social situations.
Wow.
And she even volunteered to give a presentation at work, something she would never have considered before.
That's so inspiring. It shows that with the right tools and techniques, we can overcome even our deepest fears and limiting beliefs. It's a powerful reminder that change is possible even when it feels overwhelming.
Absolutely. And remember, this book is just a starting point. There are so many resources available to support you on your journey to greater well-being.
Yeah.
You know, from books like The Power of Now and Feeling Good to apps like Headspace and Calm. There's a wealth of information and guidance out there.
Those are all fantastic resources. And of course, we highly recommend checking out Negative Thought Patterns by Arnab Saha for a comprehensive guide to understanding and overcoming negative thinking.
It's a game changer for sure.
Well, this deep dive into the world of negative thought patterns has been truly eye-opening.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gained so many valuable insights and practical tools for cultivating a more positive and resilient mindset.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, it all starts with awareness. Once we become aware of our thought patterns, we can start to consciously choose thoughts that serve us well.
Right.
It's a journey, but it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question. What's one small step you can take today to start shifting your thinking in a more positive and empowering direction?
Yeah, great question.
Whether it's starting a gratitude journal, trying a mindfulness exercise, or simply noticing your negative thoughts without judgment, every step counts. Remember, progress over perfection. Until next time, stay curious and keep those positive vibes flowing.